Hello everybody and welcome back to Spoiler Warning with myself, Tom Colohue. We have a lot of news to talk about, as you might expect, because the whole point was that hopefully for this week's Spoiler Warning we'd have a couple of days to build things up and get back to a point where there was plenty of information to jump in on. What I did not expect was for the entire wrestling world to just basically go boom, and my word, there is a lot of different news to talk about. I'm going to have to periodically go through the question and answer sections, but there are updates on Sasha Banks, and Sasha Banks, not necessarily Naomi, and there are updates on Vince McMahon in addition to the video earlier. So please do stick around, hit like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, because there is a lot that's coming in, and ask your questions if you haven't, because the question and answer section is a really important part of this show and actually covers a lot of information that doesn't necessarily spring straight to mind for me. So we are live. Let me just pop over to the Twitter side and give me a retweet. Quick retweet of my own tweet to let people know that we are live now. And let's check in with the questions before we start sharing the news. So Simon says, hey Tom, so looking forward to the show tonight, really hoping and praying for the great news on Sasha. I will start with the Sasha update, I believe. James Stewart says, good evening, Mr. T, hope you're well. Too much to content with today, looking forward to the show. Oh, thank you kindly. David Leary says, hello, welcome David. Jaden says, can't wait. Jermaine Presley says, hi Tom, I hope you're doing well today. Doing much better, thank you, doing a lot better. Kings Andy has asked for Sasha and Naomi updates, which will be coming. And Thomas Phipps says, hi Tom, can't wait for this show. Quickly thanking some subs who've just come in. Firstly, Brandon, thank you kindly for a new subscription. That is your 6 month in a row and 11 months total, says Sub Tom. A lot of stuff to go over tonight. Actually, just got back from staying a few nights in Blackpool to celebrate my birthday. Oh, hope you had a great one, mate. Hope you had a fantastic birthday, I really do. And Michael as well, subbing for 16th month in a row. Thank you kindly, Michael. Thank you, both of you, for renewing those subs and for keeping the channel going, as so many of you have. Right, a few more questions to get to before I start with the Sasha Banks news. Just don't want to fall behind. Billy says, hello Tom, hope your voice is better for today's marathon. Fingers crossed, I'm confident. Spiderboss says, hello Tom, according to Andrew Zarian, Sasha's attorneys were working on her release. I do have an update on that. Says, I'm confused of all the rumours about Sasha lately since Raj Giri saying WWE released Sasha. Andrew Zarian with Sasha's attorneys working on her release. What is true? We will be clarifying that one. Matthew Charles says, loving the shirt, Tom. Thank you kindly, Matthew. Bailey has just given 100 bits. Thank you kindly, Bailey. And I do believe that will trigger yes, it will. Thank you, Bailey. That's very good spotting. That'll trigger a hype train over on the Twitch side. A hype train which is currently at level 1 and can go as high as level 5 if people are gifting subs, are renewing their subs, or are gifting bits. Thank you kindly, Bailey, Michael, and Brandon for your generosity so far. Dimitar says, hi Tom. Hi Dimitar, how are you? Spiderboss says, is it true that Stephanie McMahon is taking over? Yes, it is. More on that to come. Dimitar also says, nice shirt. Thank you, guys. Sai says, hey, Tom and all. Quiet time to be a wrestling fan. Not so much, indeed. Jay Quick says, I'm dealing with another issue as I'm watching you in a hotel as my neighbour's house and my house caught fire. Sorry to hear that, mate. Sorry to hear that. Hopefully it gets sorted soon. Hypnosis Bro says, yay, spoiler warning. So much crazy news about to drop. So many questions too. Great stream. Thank you. And Raymond Cheats says, thanks for the updates. Have a great day, Tom. Thank you, Raymond. Razar says, do you think with Stephanie now in power, will this have any effect on the Sasha situation? An update on that is coming just as soon as I've caught up with the chat. And he says, hello, Tom. Seems like you're rocking the beach shirt today. Everyone loving your shirt. It gets worse because you can see the flowers and stuff. What you don't see is the lemons. When God gives you lemons. Jonathan says, wonder if there'll be a change of stance from Naomi and Sasha if indeed Stephanie is the new boss. Spiderboss says, I wonder what Vince will say tonight on Smackdown. I will be talking about that shortly. Brandon has donated 71 bits. Thank you kindly, Brandon. That is taking us up to 73% of the way to a level 2 hype train. Thank you very kindly. Let me catch up. James Shelley says, a shame there's been no wrestling news over the last couple of weeks. Pity, indeed. Indeed. Michael says, Meltzer is on CNN now talking about Vince. I'll watch that after your stream. By all means, dual watch, mate. I appreciate you giving me the time of day, as always. Thomas Phipps says, just wondering if Triple H will be given more control of the main roster booking-wise. He will not. It's your boy Kevin says, I literally started crying about Sasha. Well, hopefully that doesn't happen again. Eric says, Hawaiian Tom. We are Hawaiian Tom mode. Spider-Boss says, does Roman still retain tonight? Yes, he does. And Matthew says, don't be a lemon, Tom, be a rosebud. Adam Rose was very clear about this. He was. That's true. Megan says, quiet Friday night spoiler warning tonight. Yes, so quiet. So quiet. And James Stewart wants the shirts to be a thing now. Right, we are all caught up on the chat. We currently have 21 likes and 51 viewers. Please remember to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. So let's start by talking about Sasha. Now, I've been digging and I've been scratching, and to my knowledge, Sasha Banks has not yet been released by the WWE. At current, she is still a WWE employee. Now, Andrew Zarin is absolutely correct. Representatives have been speaking with the WWE, as I have reported previously, and they essentially agreed on several things. Firstly, that the Michael Cole segments, where he said that Sasha Banks and Naomi were letting everyone down, would be ending, and there was plenty more. The idea, for example, that Sasha Banks and Naomi would be returning soon is something that is still up for debate. That is what the WWE want to happen, and that is what the WWE believed would be happening, at least for Naomi. However, Sasha Banks does not seem to want to do so. Legally, she is looking to escape her contract, looking to leave the contract behind without a breach of contract issue in place. Now, this is going to be difficult. When this news first broke, we spoke a lot about the legalities of it. We don't know all the details as to the situation with the contract. But when it comes to the legality, a lot of it is down to precedent. The WWE's contracts are not ironclad. I'm very happy to finally see someone questioning them. However, there is simply no guarantee that Sasha will be able to leave. She will not be able to leave the company unless the WWE agree to a release. Vince McMahon is not inclined to do so. However, Vince McMahon is no longer in charge of the WWE. Contract situations, particularly at the moment, seem to be falling to the CFO and the president of the WWE, that being Nick Khan. However, it's believed a large part of the issue is John Laurinaitis. John Laurinaitis is also being investigated by the WWE, but has not offered to temporarily resign, and has not been suspended by the board at this point in time. There is an element of patience as regards Sasha Banks and Naomi for the future status of John Laurinaitis. I am expecting an announcement as regards John Laurinaitis fairly soon. We had the particular announcement from Vince McMahon that he would be leaving his role temporarily as CEO and chairman of the board. This means he's no longer on the board and they can investigate him. However, he has not been suspended. He's gone before he was pushed, so he's volunteered to go before someone actually kicks him out, but he has not actually been suspended. Thank you kindly everyone for that hype train. I very much appreciate it. It's been a little while and it's always a great way to really boost the profile on Twitch, so thank you kindly everyone there. Where was I? Ah yes. Stephanie McMahon she doesn't necessarily have the power that Vince McMahon did and does. It's mostly an honorary position at this point. She's not believed to be inclined to make sweeping changes to the company in that position, and part of the agreement is that she will mostly maintain the status quo. However, she was largely appointed by a certain small collection of people on the board, headlined by Nick Khan. As regards the investigation into Vince McMahon at current, while the investigation technically started in April and came to light several days ago, there is one immediate issue, and that is that up until today, they had not actually officially started investigating the accusation. Instead, they were putting together a task force on the board who would then investigate. They were waiting to put that task force together to start the actual investigation. I also feel I need to point out that firstly, Vince McMahon, still majority shareholder. Vince McMahon still has a creative role as head of creative, still employed by the company and still getting paid by the company. And I think most importantly at this point, this is an internal investigation. The WWE are investigating their chairman for misconduct. And ultimately, this investigation will pretty much prevent this going to the police, to a criminal court, or any sort of tribunal. The intention is, to be blunt, that the WWE will investigate this internally. They will announce their findings internally, and Vince McMahon will be punished if need be internally. Which essentially means that if he is found guilty, what will happen is that we will hear nothing. We will hear absolutely nothing. He simply will not regain his position as chairman and CEO. They will quietly sweep it under the carpet. If he is found innocent, guarantee you'll be hearing about it and hearing about it quite a lot. Let's catch up with the chat and then we'll go on to some other news. Spider-Boss says, is it true that Vince is still in charge of WWE's creative? Yes, it is. We will be talking in a moment about his appearance on Smackdown tonight, something that he has himself booked. Kervin says, Sasha Banks doesn't need WWE, but WWE needs Sasha. That's certainly an opinion. Michael says, maybe Johnny Ace getting fired would help. Maybe it would. Maybe it would. No guarantees there. Maybe it would. Spider-Boss says, can WWE force Sasha to come back like they did with Mustafa Ali? The WWE... The WWE certainly believes so. And the fact that they were able to do so with Mustafa Ali certainly has emboldened them to try. Michael says, Johnny Ace seemed to be the source of the issue. When it comes to Sasha Banks and Naomi, he had a large part to play in it, yes. Steve says, Mr. Colohue, unfortunately unable to watch live, but will catch you on delay. Wanted to drop in and give a like. Also wish yourself and everyone in the chat a great weekend ahead. Thank you very kindly, Steve. Much appreciate that. As Steve has just mentioned, you can hit like on the video as we are live streaming on YouTube. You can hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. We're currently trying to reach 1,195 subscribers. And at the moment, we are on 1,188. So just a 7 away. Michael says, I don't see him lasting much longer either. This is as regards Laurinaitis. Spider-Boss says, if Laurinaitis gets fired, does that help Sasha to stay? That's complete speculation. Complete speculation at this point. However, I do want to be clear that there is a patience at the moment while certain things are processed. Megan says, according to SRS about 20 minutes ago, there's been no sign of Laurinaitis in or around the venue for tonight's Smackdown. That does not surprise me. As I mentioned in my video earlier, I am expecting an announcement as regards John Laurinaitis. And certain other people who have had run-ins with John Laurinaitis are waiting for an announcement on John Laurinaitis. King Xander says, I've always said WWE contracts can fall apart when contested. Glad to see Sasha is challenging this, and I hope she wins. I kind of hope she wins as well, given how the contracts are put together. It's baffling that they've been able to get away with this for so long. Baffling to me. Floodwater, welcome, says Vince is a majority shareholder, has a majority of voting power, so can he be axed from the company? Yes. He has a contract just like anyone else. If he is found guilty of gross misconduct, he will be fired. Michael also saying the board could fire Vince. Yes, they could. King Xander says they can fire him as CEO, but he'll still have 80% of the voting rights. He will still be a shareholder, to be clear. He will still be a shareholder, and that's an issue that they would have to deal with. But they can still fire him from his positions, and that would remove him as head of creative. The shareholders do not have any control over creative, for example. Matthew Charles says, do you see this being the end for Vince at WWE one way or another? Not so much. Vince McMahon has a way of surviving. And as I've mentioned earlier, this is an internal investigation. Because it's an internal investigation, it's one that he could potentially be found guilty of and still face absolutely zero repercussions. Joey says, why is Vince going to be on Smackdown? As soon as I catch up with the chat, I will be speaking about that, speaking about the plans for Smackdown tonight. Thomas says, surely Vince can't go back as if nothing has happened now. You say that. This is not the first time Vince McMahon has been in a situation where he's been under investigation. You may not have noticed them because he tends to just carry on with his life. AC Boy Kevin says, Tom, we will likely see Sasha back in the ring. Maybe. I don't guarantee that. To my knowledge, she has not been released at this point in time. However, as Andrew Zarian has reported, there is a battle going on, a legal battle with the WWE and Sasha Banks representatives. That said, there is an element of patience at the moment, and they are not moving as quickly as certain people would like. Simon says, do you think Sasha will go to AEW if she can get out of her contract? I don't know. I don't know Sasha personally. I don't know what she would do, but I think it's worth pointing out that I would see Hollywood calling for Sasha Banks. Just before we continue, I do want to point out we're currently at 61 viewers, 73 viewers total across both YouTube and Twitch. That is incredible numbers. Clearly this is something people are very interested in. We have 28 likes, which is less than half of viewers, so please remember to hit thumbs up. And if you're watching on Twitch, hit that follow button. We do wrestling news every Monday and every Friday, as well as a Smackdown and pay-per-view, or premium live event I should say, watch party. So please do check out more of the channel. Joey says, I saw a report that Johnny Ace is expected to be fired. I can only say that I'm waiting for an announcement about John Laurinaitis. Jane says, can Sasha even come back? She had an eye surgery. She can come back, but they would have to wait for her to return. Edward Brooks, welcome, says, do you think they wait to bring Bayley back at Money in the Bank and not any day prior? Absolutely not sure at this point in time. I mean, it may be that they bring Bayley back just to distract from the fact that Vince McMahon is being removed from his position. It's WWE. They are guilty of the dead cat. Hypnosis Bro says, it's so funny how you reported Sasha Banks and their lawyer story a while ago, but it's now getting shared by others and taking the credit for it. Justice for Tom. I did report that there were representatives of Sasha Banks speaking with the WWE and getting the WWE to back down and making certain assurances with the hope that they could get across the line and bring her back. That clearly is not where we've ended up going, but I have seen a lot of people saying, disputing my report about representatives speaking to the WWE, stating that there has been no contact, and now suddenly saying otherwise. Marcus Giles is celebrating, saying Vince McMahon era is over. We'll see how that goes at this point. Razar says, there was someone saying WWE views Sasha as someone they can clone and replace. If so, why would they fight her on a release? That was Andrew Zarian. That was Dimitar, fantastic, bringing the exact quote. Weird quote from Zarian. They believe Sasha can be replaced, cloned, and someone else can fit her role. I don't believe that to be the case, because ultimately Sasha Banks is Sasha Banks. Love her or hate her, she draws. Spider Boss is hoping Laurinaitis gets fired. Marcus Giles says, na. Hey, goodbye Vince McMahon. I don't know how the crowd are going to react tonight, I'll say that, before I get to the actual news of it. Bailey says, maybe the best of a bad situation, but selecting Stephanie is a good opportunity to see if she is capable of being a CEO going forwards. And it probably keeps the WWE's largest voting shareholder happy. That is a very fair comment. The only person in the McMahon family other than Vince who has proven pedigree running companies is Shane McMahon. James Shelley says, based on SRS reporting, thank you for sourcing. I love how everyone's bringing in the exact sources here. Seems like Johnny Ace was not popular as a female locker room in general. I think any Sasha Naomi return is contingent on him being fired. That is speculation, and a valid part of a valid speculation. I would certainly speculate similar. You know the deal, says great content. Always sharing facts over fiction / hearsay. Keep up the good work. Thank you, you know the deal. I really do appreciate it. I try to just cut through all the garbage and the clickbait and just make sense. You know, every now and then I look at my thumbnails and I think, oh, maybe that's a bit clickbaity. But at the same time, I'm trying to make this a full-time job. And when you actually get to a video, I like to think I at least get through most of the crap and just share the news. Spider Boss says, knowing how it's Vince, I see him doing anything to retain Sasha in WWE. He does not want to let her go. They will fight those representatives tooth and nail unless those representatives are able to find a way out of that contract. Simon says, will Vince have to sell the company then if he's fired from his positions? Who would permanently take over? Steph, Nick Khan. No, he would not have to sell the company. The company is publicly traded. It is no longer his sole ownership to sell. To be clear, if Vince McMahon does decide to sell, what he has to do is get rid of his shares, and he would be the only change. Nick Khan is next in line to Vince McMahon as regards ownership. The only reason he is not currently the CEO and acting chairman is that he is currently on the board investigating, and that would be a conflict of interest. Mr. Floodwater says, I heard he used his personal funds to settle his $3 million. Mr. Floodwater, do you have a source on that? What's your source? King Xander says, any update on Sasha's Hollywood prospects? Nothing really to update. At the moment, as she's under WWE contract, she cannot fulfill any particular Hollywood commitments that have not already been agreed by the WWE, but this is one of the reasons that she's currently trying to get out of her contract. Hello, Sean. How you doing, mate? Marcus Giles says, I want Liv Morgan to win the Money in the Bank briefcase this year. We have already done a video on the expected winners of Money in the Bank. I do advise you to check that out. Unfortunately, Liv Morgan is not one of them. Spider Boss says AJ Lee on her book told that WWE's officials had problems with her because they couldn't have sex with her. It's amazing how often we've heard that and how often we've heard things like that since. Rocky Winner says, don't get too excited, he still has creative control. And he does. It is a valid comment there. Vince McMahon does still have creative control over the WWE. Now, there's plenty more that you can get excited about. I'm just retweeting your quote tweet now, Bailey. Thank you kindly for sharing. There is still plenty that can be done and the like. Well, Vince McMahon does still have creative control over the WWE and does still have ultimate booking power. He has, after all, rewritten the entirety of Smackdown with this in mind. David Leary says, any updates if Fox or NBC Universal are not happy with the Vince situation? No updates at this point in time. They have thus far stayed out of it. Ultimately, they will only wade in if sponsors are telling them otherwise. However, this is part of the agreement. An agreement was made, which as soon as I've caught up with the chat, I will update everyone on. Floodwater says, is Orton legit injured? Because I'm hearing reports, by which you mean report from Fightful. He's out until the end of the year. I'm waiting for more information. I don't see any reason to question the Fightful report. I expected him back this week, so we'll wait and see how it goes. Joey says, is Stephanie McMahon running everything now? She's not running everything. She is the chairperson of the board. She is the chief executive officer. She's running less than Vince McMahon did and less than Nick Khan currently does. James Shelley says, Sasha has to have the best team in the business right now. She has said nothing, and very few dirt sheet / journalists seem that they can ever truly know what's going on with her. She does have an incredibly strong team that just makes sure nothing gets out. I've been incredibly lucky to be able to report the news that I've been able to as regards Sasha Banks. So many different wrestling media members have called me a liar about it and then been proven wrong when Sasha Banks eventually returns and makes her feelings heard. Hypnosis Bro says, Vince McMahon is on Smackdown tonight. What can go wrong? Everything is fine. It's fine. Yes, he will be on Smackdown tonight. He has booked it himself. Sai says, mainstream media are on this. They tend to leave wrestling alone because, well, it's wrestling. Misuse of public money is bigger than wrestling. May prompt them to look for more. Interesting times. Interesting indeed. To be clear, mainstream media are unlikely to let this one go. They know that there is a huge story in this, and it's going to basically define wrestling for the next decade. Honestly, I'm surprised there haven't been veiled references to it in AW programming right now, in Impact programming. It's the done thing. We briefly got up to a total viewership of 83 viewers there, 66 on YouTube. This show is absolutely flying. Thank you kindly, everyone, for joining us. There is more news to come as regards the booking on SmackDown tonight of Vince McMahon and what he plans to do. So please do stay tuned as I catch up with the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, we have 63 viewers and only 33 likes. So please remember to hit that thumbs up. It makes a massive difference to the growth of the channel and, in fact, the individual viewership of this show. And subscribe if you haven't. We're trying to get to 1,195 subscribers en route to 1,200. We are currently at 1,188. King's Andy says, try cloning the connection Sasha has with fans, especially young fans, female fans, and black fans. Idiotic comment. I can't disagree, but Andrew Zarian was sharing the opinion of someone in the WWE. Megan says, no matter how the crowd reacts, we won't hear it because it will get muted and drowned out with whatever button Kevin Dunn chooses to press. Kevin Dunn will definitely back Vince as much as he possibly can. Matthew Charles says, I don't think the crowd will react much differently. Many of them are just there to see a show. It's not impossible that we hear a chant of no chance in hell and a thank you Vince. I've got to be honest, it's not impossible. Ghost, welcome, says the past 3 weeks have been absolute chaos in the wrestling world. This summer is going to be an interesting time. You are not wrong. Kenny Williams, welcome, says hello Tom, first time here. Quite a bit of news in the pro wrestling world this past week. You are not wrong, Kenny, you are not wrong at all. Welcome to the show. Spider Boss says, in Vince's words, John Laurinaitis, you're fired. I tried my best for you. Michael says, if I were completely devalued as a human being by a boss of mine, this being Laurinaitis, there's no way I'd want to be there either. Now, it's interesting. When I first started talking about the Sasha and Naomi situation, I was reporting about a backstage producer shouting at them and later confirmed that it was John Laurinaitis. Again, I was called a liar at that, but here we are. Tommy B says, will Triple H be back in creative now? No, there are no changes other than the chairperson and CEO, which is the same person. No other changes are happening. This does not affect Triple H in any way. Matthew Charles says, with the hair and the kind of crazy, with the shirt and the kind of crazy hair, kind of giving Ace Ventura vibes tonight. Okay, I kind of love what you said there, Matthew. I kind of love what you've said, and I'm going to keep that. Mahesh, welcome. Something of writer, I believe I've seen your name in places. Welcome. Jane says, are you going to do a watch along? Yes, I am. We will be watching Smackdown tonight. We will be reacting live to everything going on with Vince McMahon. I guarantee you the ratings are going to be incredible on this one. Razar says, how much power does John Laurinaitis have and why do female talent dislike him? What is his role to deal with talent? He's in charge of talent relations, which means essentially everything from the top goes through him, then reaches talent. And if talent want to talk to Vince, they have to go through John Laurinaitis first. He's the roadblock. Simon says, do you see Steph having temporary power, bringing Sasha back, helping change Sasha's mind at all? Potentially, yes. The impending announcement as regards John Laurinaitis is a bigger deal. Bailey says, it was once said by wrestling Twitter that if Vince wasn't around, the stock would tank. Apparently the markets are not worried. The stock is down just 3% today and a net under 2% for the week. A lot of confidence in Stephanie and a lot of confidence in the speed at which they acted. Hypnosis Bro says, season 1 of Succession, the Vince McMahon drama, is such big news that we aren't talking about Roman Reigns finally waking up from hibernation and returning to his island of relevancy. I know, Vince McMahon's a draw now, apparently. Spider-Boss says, is Raj Giri's report about Sasha false? I don't believe at this point in time that Sasha Banks has been released. Outside of that, I can't say. We'll wait and see what further news comes out. Kingsander says, the thing that a lot of people are missing is that it's not only this recent allegation being investigated. The WSJ also mentioned they're investigating other NDAs going back a decade. They did indeed. It is a number of different things. This is like the main one, but it's still a lot happening at once. Sean said, if Sasha's lawyers aren't able to get her out of a contract, would Sasha have to come back and work the remainder of it? That's the WWE's intention, yes. Jaden says, Sasha doesn't give a shit. Fair. BFG said, if Sasha does leave WWE and does decide to go to AEW, how beneficial do you think it will be for their company? Massive. It will be huge. Only Moxley will have been a bigger signing. Potentially Punk, but only Moxley for me. Simon says, Liv Morgan was at the Tribeca Film Festival. It's starting to go Hollywood herself. There are offers coming through and the WWE currently filtering through to what they want Liv to do. Ethan says, hey Tom, welcome Ethan. Austin says, just got in, what did I miss? Quite a lot. There was a big update on Sasha Banks and a big update on the Vince McMahon situation. Spider-Boss says, I bet that it is capable of firing John Laurinaitis in order to retain Sasha in WWE. Not sure what you're saying there. Yes, okay, I've got what you're saying. I guess Vince is capable of firing John Laurinaitis. He isn't. He is no longer in charge of hiring and firing. He is not the chairman or CEO of the board. Simon says, would really love to see both CM Punk and Sasha in AEW. Might one day happen. Floodwater says, Sasha has a history of walking out. she does. That doesn't necessarily mean she doesn't have good reason. Jaden is saying Sasha broke her silence on her Insta story. She did. There is a reason she doesn't track Twitter. Tommy B, welcome. Says this could hurt wrestling as a whole. Been a bad week for wrestling with Jeff Hardy and Vince, and AW ratings took a nosedive. Not a great week for wrestling. Not a great week for wrestling indeed. Very fair point. Lauren, welcome. Says, hi, do you think that it was smart for AW to keep mum on TV and the socials about the WWE scandal? I'm so proud they've been so reserved. Cody was always the lead in sort of the attacks on WWE, so the fact that he's no longer involved, is quite telling. There, and may direct their intentions elsewhere. I would not be too surprised if we get a mention of it on Rampage, though. Simon says, apparently, Jaden, that was fake, this being her breaking her silence on Instagram. What culture video was proven wrong apparently today? Don't know for sure, though. Easiest way to check? Easiest way, pop onto Instagram. Is it there? No. Hypnosis Bro says the real question is, will he be live in the ring in front of the crowd, or is it going to be pre-taped? News on that shortly. Sean says, I hope one thing Stephanie does as CEO is end the title unifications. That is not an option that she has. Vince McMahon is still head of creative. Kingsander says, Dunn is getting investigated for insider trading. Bodyslam reported this yesterday. Crazy times. And that is potentially something that's happening. However, Kevin Dunn is not in a position where he would be a part of insider trading. He's not a member of the board. D. Freeman, welcome to the show, and thank you very kindly for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 gifted subs. Thank you, D. Freeman. Welcome to the show. Thank you kindly for sharing. Thank you very much. That's lovely. I really appreciate that. Thank you kindly for your support. Kenny says, I've already subbed because of the accent. Thank you kindly. Ed says, can we get a bad Vince? Well, to be fair, here's the situation, right? Here's the situation. Vince McMahon is no longer the chairman. He's no longer the CEO. He may be guilty of some pretty heinous stuff. He's certainly being investigated for things which will get him in some major trouble. So I think that there's one thing we can all agree on right now is that someone has been a bad Vince. There you go, Ed. How you doing, Ed? Hope you're good, man. Hector says, happy Friday, Tom. First off, nice shirt. I applaud the choice. Lemons. Obviously, there has been people in Vince's ear telling him to not come out on Smackdown. Vince does what Vince wants. Would there ever be a scenario that would force either the board or the network to step in? Yes, there are many possible scenarios where that would happen. Most of them involve him, like, stabbing someone. Simon says, think Liv will be Roman's champion in the next year? Not in the next year, no. Maybe after next WrestleMania. Thank you, D. Freeman, for renewing your subscription, as well as all those gifted subs. Thank you kindly. That's an 11th month. Thank you very much. Bailey says, Vince appearing does not mean he has to walk to the ring and hear from the crowd. He could also have a pre-taped interview with Michael Cole or Heather Braxton. I mean, he could. Kenny said if he comes out and goes full heel and goes piss off and then introduces stuff, that'll be gold, but he won't. He will not. Floodwater says, I just want to say we don't know Vince is guilty, which is true. What has happened is a presumption of innocence until evidence proves otherwise. The investigation is about prejudice, which is why it is a temporary removal from his position. There is no guarantee at this point in time that he will actually lose that job, and no guarantee, even if proven guilty, that the board will decide to fire him anyway. It is an internal investigation. They could potentially sweep it under the carpet. Michael says, I can't wait for this impending announcement. Neither can I, mate. Spider-Boss says, I believe that WWE will not grant Sasha her release no matter how much Sasha's attorneys try. Sasha's attorneys are investigating at the moment to try and get her out of the contract. It's not impossible. Michael says, Stephanie seems to be level-headed. I agree. I think it's a good pick. Joey says, can Vince get removed from creative? He can, but they have not decided to do so far. Michael says, follow the money, which is always the right choice. Sean, whatever you've said there, I want that deleted. I want that deleted immediately. I don't care. I don't care whether it's right or not. You do not name people. You absolutely do not state any names as to who you think or otherwise may be involved in it. I've just deleted it. You absolutely do not name any names of who you think it may or may not be. I'm being very clear here. Someone did drop a name. That is a massive breach of the law. Do not name any potential names. I want to be very clear on that. Megan says, I know everyone is hoping Sasha goes to AEW first. Personally, I think she might do a run in Stardom. That would be fun. KJ says, Sasha gone or not, I'm late. To my knowledge, she is not being released by the WWE as of this point in time. However, legal representatives are looking at different options to get her out of her contract. They just haven't succeeded yet. Hector says, the saddest part of this situation is that it took something like this to potentially push Johnny Ace out of power, considering the reports of how bad females have been treated under his reign. Yeah, that's a very, very fair comment. Noob says, I've seen a tweet from Asuka 2 days ago. Seems like she's teasing a change in her character. An evolution of her character, more like. Hypnosis Bro says, all the wrestling news in the last month alone is proof to me that wrestling is the best sport in the world. Drama and success and emotion and moments that are unforgettable. Certainly there have been some unforgettable moments in the past couple of days. King Xander says, the IG post was from Zendaya, not Sasha, it was photoshopped. What culture hopefully will not be picking up on that one in future. Rizal says, if Stephanie is CEO, is she in control of contracts and how much people get paid? No, that will be the Chief Financial Officer, Nick Khan. Austin says, I've seen Sasha has a new look. Didn't believe when Sasha released till I heard it from WWOU. I looked at the WWE page, she is still there. She is indeed. So I said, the dead cats the WWE are going to throw it. This will be amazing. I'm not ruling out a Riddle title win tonight. That's a very fair comment. I kind of get it. Jaden says, can you explain what Vince exactly is accused of? There is a number of different things that Vince is accused of, but the main area of concern is paying $3 million in hush money to a member of staff that he was in a position of authority over, that he is accused of having an affair with, and then passing to John Laurinaitis like a toy. Spider-Boss says, does Vince's situation affect Theory's push? Doesn't affect the fact that Theory is being pushed, does affect the way the Theory is going to be pushed, because Vince McMahon will not be on TV. King Xander says, I hate to say this as a wrestling fan, I really want to see WWE lose every single court case that may occur. Sometimes you need to get socked in the mouth for things to change. I do agree that sometimes you need to take the hit. The WWE have been very resistant for a while. Simon says, I really love the new tag team between Liv and Alexa. Are we getting Alexa versus Bianca anytime soon? Hopefully, yes, that is part of the plan at the moment. I personally did not know that this tag team was coming, and I'm pleasantly surprised to see it happening. I know you guys were really excited about it. I'm pretty happy it's happening now too. Nelson says, if Vince is guilty, do you think Stephanie becomes CEO chairwoman permanent? Personally, I find that unlikely, but there is no guarantees otherwise. Sean says, did you see that Ric Flair said Randy Orton and Charlotte are held back by WWE? I did. Why does anyone report anything Ric Flair says anymore? JDE says, messy week if you ask me. You are not wrong on that one. It's been a hell of a week. Spider-Boss says, I wonder what WWE can offer to Sasha in order to make her stay in the company. A very, very good question. KJ says, what about people power? Joey says, how long do you think this investigation will last? Absolutely no idea. I have absolutely no idea at this point in time. Simon says, didn't the new NXT Women's Small Clothing Mandate come from Johnny Ace? There was no small clothing mandate. There was no small clothing mandate in NXT. That did not happen. There was no small clothing mandate. That did not happen. Hypnosis Bro says, does Hollywood actually have interest in Becky Lynch? I haven't heard anything since she became Big Time Bex. It's like it died down because of it. There is interest, yes. The WWE do not want to let her go at this point in time. Jay Quick says, do you think Cena beats Theory for the US title now since Vince is gone? Vince is only gone from the business side. He is still an employee. He is still in charge of creative. He is still planning to push Austin Theory. And Austin says, is there a preview for Smackdown? I'm not sure. Let's find out. I'm going to pop over to WWE.com and see what they've got on the Smackdown bit at the moment. See if there's anything new and anything good. Thank you kindly, Dan and Sean, for quote tweeting the show. I'm just going to retweet those. I've had plenty of retweets of quote tweets today, and I'm very, very grateful to all of you for the continued support. I really do appreciate that. As soon as I've checked for this preview, I will start talking about the plans for SmackDown tonight. There is a preview up mentioning Vince McMahon. Madcap Moss battles Happy Corbin in a last laugh match. Well, that's mentioned, but it's not in the preview. Featured superstars Mr. McMahon in a picture that's clearly been heavily doctored. So, here is the plan for SmackDown tonight. Vince McMahon is planning to address the WWE Universe. He is planning to enter the arena, to my knowledge. There is obviously a lot of time for this to change, and people are trying to convince him not to go out there. People are trying to convince him not to go out there. He'll be arriving at SmackDown. He will be speaking to the assembled locker room and the assembled employees. He'll be addressing them first, and he will be explaining his impending leave of absence. He will then be going out and speaking to the WWE Universe, unless convinced otherwise, and essentially in character will be talking about a storyline that they have come up with, which is a reason to separate them. A reason to separate Vince McMahon and the WWE. A reason for him to go off TV. The intention, and I'm going to be really clear here, is to kayfabe this. The intention by Vince McMahon is to make it so that when you Google Vince McMahon leaves the WWE, what you get is the storyline. Vince McMahon is going to give us a kayfabe reason for him to leave the company, at which point different wrestling media sites and some mainstream media sites will report it, and it will shoot to the top of the Google search rankings and muddy the water. This is something the WWE have been doing for a long time, just basically avoiding certain stories by having similar storylines. That's the plan. Afterwards, Vince McMahon will be going back to gorilla position and sitting down to continue his creative role. What happens on Raw is currently in doubt. He usually sits at gorilla and speaks directly to Michael Cole. It is not believed that that is too likely going forwards. It is very possible that Vince McMahon from here on out will serve a purely remote role. The rest of SmackDown will be main evented by Roman Reigns and Matt Riddle, who will be kept as far away from this particular storyline as possible. And the WWE are currently trying to come up with some compelling ideas and storylines to make sure that people are not thinking about Vince McMahon after he goes. I'm going to be really blunt here. Vince is aiming to get a thank you Vince chant going. He's aiming to get trending on Twitter for the kayfabe reason, not the real life one. JD says, I think if they're going to attempt to patch whatever relationship that they have with Sasha, Stephanie would be the person to do it, but Vince probably would need to be out of the way. To be clear, he is not at this point out of the way. Hector says it's interesting that they promoted Steph. They're completely burying her on the way out to her time off request. Wouldn't surprise me if this move was made to save face with Steph. The choice was made essentially the choice was led by Nick Khan. So rumours of burial might not be accurate. Jermaine says, hey Tom, I find it funny that you reported that Vince and Sasha are good friends. Then yesterday Sportskeeda reported that Sasha and Vince used to be good friends. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely true. There are several instances of reporting in the wrestling sphere where if you're a regular here in the Tom Colohue channels, they don't surprise you because you've known about them for a while now. Obviously, my name never gets brought up anymore. I feel that's a shame, because more people would find me and more people would have the news first. But we are where we are. Thankfully, we have just, by the way, hit 1,195 subscribers, which means that tonight for the watch party, we aim for 1,200, with just 5 more. But at the same time, it's one of those. I try my best to report the news as best I can, without really factoring in all of the crap that came before. As a point, there are 58 people watching right now and only 38 likes. Please remember to hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and if you're watching on Twitch, where we currently have an 18 viewership, please do remember to hit follow if you haven't as well. Sean says, thoughts on Fabian Aichner's re-debut as Giovanni Vinci? I'm surprised they haven't put him with Gunter already, but the name suggests that they still could. Jay Quick says, will Stephanie appear at all on TV? Possibly yes, most likely when they do another draft. Jaden says, if Stephanie becomes permanent CEO chairwoman, will she have the power that Vince had? Yes, she would, except for the creative one, which is a separate role. Gleb, how you doing, mate? Just today was live with Wrestling Home about the Vince scandal, and here you are. Hello, mate, how are you? I'm very well, thank you, Gleb, very well indeed. I can't say I'm surprised that they'd be reaching out to you for this particular report and story. It's a doozy. It is a doozy. LaHawkman says with Alexa and Liv pretty much as a tag team, do you think there will be a full-on tag team, or there'll be a team but going more for the Raw Women's title? We'll do tag team matches when it is needed. My hope is both, because I think both can be in both situations, but I think at the moment they are firmly in the tag team scenario. Thank you. We've just broken 40 likes, which is absolutely incredible. The record so far during one live show, 45. That's the record so far. We're only 4 away. Spider-Boss says, any update on Bayley's return? Not at this point in time. She is fit. She is cleared. They just have not brought her back yet. Kingsander says, an interesting comment Steph made on the Bill Simmons pod in 2021 before Mania. When asked why Sasha wasn't pushed more, her answer, it's not my decision and it's never been my decision. Yeah, it hasn't been. She's not in charge of creative. She was a chief brand officer. It had nothing to do with her. Simon says, Alexa and Liv, next women's tag team champions when they are reactivated. Very hopefully the fans are so excited about the tag team. They are. That's very true. Matthew says, do we know who takes over creative if Vince is removed entirely? We do not. There is no particular hierarchy there. Bruce Pritchard, I believe, will step in charge of creative, but I can't guarantee that. Megan says, am I the only one who finds it kind of amusing is the best word I can think of? The very few people are mentioning the separate issue that Vince is being sued for over $23 million by a former XFL employee, and he'll be heading to court next month. Yeah, there are so many things he's been investigated for that we keep forgetting other things that he's been investigated for, which is kind of funny. Austin says, I wonder what the qualifying matches will be tonight. Be interesting to see. Razar says, with the investigation including company culture, can this affect certain superstars that also had allegations like Riddle and Theory? Yes. Yes, it can. This is directly what they mean by the culture. Ed says, last man standing is a last laugh. Just named that for publicity. Gotcha. Okay, so it's last man standing match. Got it. Spider-Boss says, when the Sasha news came out, I waited for spoiler warning to hear you. I try my best to inform as best I can. And Kingsander says, does Fox not have a say in this? Surely they can stop him going out there. They can try, but ultimately it's still Vince McMahon's show, and he can write the script however he wants. Jacob says, will Stephanie be at Smackdown? Most likely, yes. Tommy says, Steph should stay CEO. Contract Reed McMahon, but Stephanie McMahon. Got it. Hector says, Vince's limo blowing up part 2. Well, I mean, I don't want to see him repeat themselves, but why not? James suggests Vince might say he was going for surgery on his grapefruits. Simon says, is Vince still going to be backstage at Gorilla in production on Raw SmackDown every week? Probably not. I know he's going to be there this week. However, long term, they may decide that's not the best move. James Shelley says that kayfabe angle is going to blow up in his face so hard, that's an awful idea, but that is very much the plan. Gleb says basically he's still going to influence whatever is happening on the show while staying in the shadows, and that was expectable, I think. I agree with that. Spider-Boss says, can WWE bring back Sasha in order to make people forget about Vince's accusations? No, only Sasha can decide if Sasha comes back. They can't say, Sasha, you're back now. They can't do that. Simon says, who's Roman's opponent for SummerSlam now? Randy is injured until early next year. If Randy is indeed out, they don't know, and they're going to have to work it out. Hypnosis Bro says, kayfabing it sounds good, but how on earth are they going to do this to make it make sense? How can they separate it? Stephanie fires him, Vince steps down himself. Vince steps down himself, that's his plan, that's what he's going to do tonight. I'm not planning on watching Slammiversary tomorrow night. No, I'm planning on having a date night. Thomas Phipps says, I've got to be honest, you're the only source that I listen to now. Thank you, Thomas, I appreciate that. It's a very nice thing to say. Hector says, Tom, I know of Jay White because he's a big name and I know you've mentioned him before. The other night was the first time I heard his theme, and it's money just like him in the ring and promo. Man's a star. He is. I'm really happy that so many people have come out and have found Jay White because of what's going on in Impact in AEW at the moment. I found him a while back, and my God, this is my guy. You know, this is my guy. Simon says, does Sasha and Nick Khan get on? Are they friends? They don't really know each other. Tommy says, wonder what Undertaker thinks of this moment being close friends with Vince. I'm not really that concerned, to be honest. It's the Undertaker. He's retired and he's out of the game. Unless Vince brings him back to chokeslam him. There are some truly terrible prospects at this point in time. Simon says, do you think Naomi joins the bloodline? I think she would have to return first. King Zandy says, haven't watched since Sasha and Naomi left. Even then I was just watching their segments. Might tune in tonight. I think a lot of people might be tuning in tonight just to see what Vince says. They've certainly made it a hot draw segment opening the show. Dee Freeman says, this might be a good question. Do you believe more things could come out than hurt Vince more, where they have to push him out in the background? Yeah, he's being investigated for a lot more things than have become public knowledge. Jermaine says, hey Tom, I have a feeling that Sasha and Naomi will be back before the draft. Matthew says, what was Fury supposed to have done? I've never found out. At this point, as Sai actually clarifies a bit later, I'm not going to comment on it. There may still be an active investigation ongoing. And honestly, it's worth saying, and I've had to say this a lot recently, if I'm speculating on things that haven't been proven or things that are currently under investigation, I could potentially be breaching the law. So I'm not going to. So, for example, saying, oh, when this happens, this person's going to... And when this happens, this person's going to... Oh, and Vince did this or that. That's not what I can do here and not what I would do anyway. Simon says, does Triple H go higher up the corporate ladder now? This has no impact whatsoever on Triple H. Sai says, and I want to say this out loud as well, please be careful on the Fury rumours as they were never proven. There are a number of others as well in similar circumstances. There are also accusations that were made where the wrestler in question confirmed them and said, yeah, but nothing happened, despite actually confirming that it was true. Stranger things have happened. BFG says, just a thought, do you think Sasha's team could be negotiating as part of that deal that she can take her music and name with her? I have no idea the intimate details of legal negotiations between WWE and Sasha Banks' legal team. That's a big question that there is no chance. Jay Quick, I have no idea. That is complete speculation. Michael says, you'd think that in 2022 people would know what happens on TV as storylines. Do you remember when someone in the crowd attacked Seth Rollins because they thought Seth Rollins had stolen money from them? I think it's worth pointing out at this point, quite a lot of people are quite a lot dumb. JD says, personally, Stephanie being chairwoman and Triple H being creative would be a huge breath of fresh air. It would certainly be very different. But at the moment, there is no plan to move Triple H. Simon says, any news on Sting's injury? Nothing. Not much news as regards injuries actually comes out of AEW outside of channels that they decide to tell. That being, for example, Dave Meltzer. Sean says, were you surprised by Christian's heel turn on Jungle Boy? Not so much. They needed something to get excited over when it comes to that. It's been a little while and Jungle Boy is not exactly hitting the highlights at the moment. But I think this is a big help. Alex Pires says, Tom, Triple H will be involved. There is no plan at the moment that I'm aware of to move Triple H from the role he has at the moment. Hypnosis Bro, I don't know. I've spoken about what I expect to happen. I've spoken about the betting averages and the news backstage for the results of Money in the Bank. I already have a video on the planned results for Money in the Bank, which you can check out. Hector says on the latest episode of Matt's podcast, he said Jeff is just so remorseful, so embarrassed after the latest DUI arrest, which makes me wonder how he felt every other time he was arrested. I'd imagine the exact same, and then it happened again. Spider-Boss says, can WWE use a bloodline to give a beatdown for Vince in order to say the bloodline runs WWE? They could. That's not impossible. Thomas Phipps says, am I the only person who feels a little let down with the Forbidden Door pay-per-view? I'm excited to know that Jay White's going to be on it. I'm pretty excited, but I want Okada. I want Kazuchika Okada to wrestle someone, and I want that someone to be Daniel Bryan. Oh, Simon says the MLW lawsuit is going on too as well. It's not started well though, has it? Austin says you sound a lot better. Thank you, Austin. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm pretty confident that we'll be more than happy to do the watch along tonight. I'll be here in just over 2 hours for that watch along. We've had, imagine, a bit more news as well. King Xander says, when I say tune in tonight, I mean tuning in to watch the car crash. This is going to be bad. Probably will, yeah. D. Freeman says, push out Vince and you can get Kevin Dunn out, Bruce out and Johnny Ace out. It'd be a very different company. Gleb says, have to say, this whole situation makes it a bloody mess with so many multiple outcomes. Only good thing is that it's probably going to be quite quick. Since it's a hot subject, I'll tune in much more. It is a very hot subject. Absolutely, yeah. Hypnosis Bro says, crazy to think that Cody getting injured was 2 weeks ago. Wrestling is just wrestling. It is relentless this past few weeks. Alex Pierce is asking about a Trent Seven match for NXT UK or TakeOver. I don't know. And honestly, when it comes to NXT UK, Daniel Price says, Vince isn't leaving, still going to be in charge of creative and the owner. Damage control job title shifting. Did the same thing during the steroid trial and put Jerry Jarrett in charge. Yep. It's exactly that. It is a temporary demotion more than it's a kicking out, as it were. Dimitar says, really at this point, all we can do about Sasha is wait. I just hope she either gets what she wants or they can come to some sort of middle ground. I also hope that they bring her back. Michael says, Tony Storm versus Thunder Rosa is a dream match come true, so Thunderstorm. Kingsander says, WWE dismantled NXT, what makes anybody think Triple H will ever get the creative role? I think it's also worth asking, what makes anybody think that Triple H wants the creative role? Thomas says, just imagine Triple H in charge of Raw Creative and Paul Heyman in charge of SmackDown Creative. Again, what makes anyone think Triple H wants it? BFG says, I'm glad you like another Kiwi, by the way, in white, apart from me. I like Jay White, I mean, I'll go that far. Nelson says, I'd rather have Stephanie be CEO chairwoman in charge than Nick Khan. Well, that's exactly what you've got. Daniel Price is saying Triple H can't handle that much delegation and responsibility after his heart surgery, got to do light work. I don't know if that's true. Like, that's like pure speculation there. Sean says, were you tired and didn't feel good to not do the Raw watch party? Yeah, I wasn't feeling too great. You guys know that I wasn't very well. I've still got a slight cough, but I'm definitely feeling a lot better now. Razar says, with Randy possibly out, who goes against Reigns at SummerSlam? They are still working that out. I'm waiting to see what happens with Randy Orton. I'm waiting for confirmation of that before we go forwards. Michael says, let's say Laurinaitis gets fired but Vince stays as CEO. Would the board be able to block him from being rehired? They'd be able to try. I don't think they'd be able to succeed. Depends if Laurinaitis is found guilty, and really depends on whether or not there may or may not be an impending announcement as regards John Laurinaitis. Hector says, Tom, did you see Maki Ito is making a GCW debut soon? Will definitely be fun for sure. Everywhere she goes. Everywhere she goes. Alex Pierce says, on Hell in a Cell, fans wanted Seth to be Stardust attire. I'm very happy with the attire he already had. Woody says, Colohue for head of creative, keep up the good work. Thank you, Woody, appreciate that. Spider-Boss says, I hope to see Sasha back. And Sean says, is it possible they bring back Brock? Is it possible they bring back Brock to face Roman? It is possible. Michael says, quit teasing me with this announcement. Well, I can't say anything. I can't say anything. Like, it would be a serious breach if I was to say anything at this point. Spider-Boss says, is Brock the plan B? I don't know. They're still working it out. We have been live for just over an hour. I believe we peaked at 67 people watching on YouTube, 83 people watching in total. We are on 44 likes, one less than my record for a singular hour-long live show. I gotta say, I think this has been a pretty good show. A pretty good show indeed. Alex says, what are the plans for WrestleMania 39? Ronda versus Becky is the only match that's set in stone at this point. So I'm going to wrap it up there. We will be live in 2 hours for WWE Smackdown. Be sure to come back then and tune into the Tom Colohue channels. But in the meantime, I hope everyone has had their questions answered. I hope everyone has a great night. I will see you all very soon. I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic. I'll see you all very soon.